Hey, people. Welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Kit. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe and hit that ring bell notification. That way you're made aware when we upload new content onto our channel. But please also support the original content creators and join me for commentary is none other than my good friend Daniel. So, Dan, ready to get your learn on with Americans Learn?
Very much. I'm excited. This is, we just started seeing Japan just did the Pearl Harbor attack, and now they're simultaneously attacking other places. They're, as far as an invasion goes, using a very low amount of troops. We know historically they succeed, at least initially, and now I'm excited because this part of the Second World War, I don't know really almost anything about how specifically Japan took over Southeast Asia, and so I'm excited to keep learning.
Okay. Here, here's something else I want to bring up here too. Again, folks, support Kings and Generals. They're doing great work, and we're continuing now to. And Daniel, you said, "Hey, we're seeing Japan attack Pearl Harbor. We're seeing Japan invade Malaysia." Well, this video is titled "Japan Attacks Everywhere Simultaneously." So, in other words, they're that person at the bar that's just going punching everyone.
It's like everyone's sitting on a booth, and he just runs his fist, runs down, holding it out.
And by the way, heads up, my friends, do not do that in real life. That is what will cause you to be losing all of your teeth, because people don't like that. So unless you know how to fight brutal hand-to-hand combat, do not do that when you go to the bar or the club.
Yeah. You know what he's doing? It's the equivalent of the bar's like, "You're a jerk. I'm not serving you anymore." And they go, "Okay," and they go behind and break all the glasses so no one else can drink.
Yeah, and that's, again, something else you don't want to do, because in case said bar has huge individuals who are the security guards, they'll take you out back. So there you go. All right, but enough of that. Let's go ahead and pull up this video and watch Japan attacks everywhere. Everyone's going to get punched.
As the rising sun expanded across East Asia, the United States Pacific Fleet laid broken in the shallow waters of Pearl Harbor. The British colonies had also been invaded, suffering defeat after defeat, both in Hong Kong and in the Malayan Peninsula. But this would not be the end of the Japanese aggression, as the strategic American possessions in the Pacific were now up for grabs. Today we're going to cover the initial landings in the Philippines, as well as the attacks against Guam and Wake Island. Climate change is one of the biggest challenges the world is.
Now, look, we're not being disrespectful here. We're not just trying to purposely just pass by this, but chances are the promo code has disappeared. So what we will say to all of you watching is please support Kings and Generals. Making these videos is not easy. And again, said promo code might already be gone. So
yeah, this is better than History Channel. I mean, even back when they did history. With the exception of having people that they can talk to on camera, they can cut to, like, this is really crazy. This is like super detailed.
Yes, exactly. When History Channel used to do history, instead of, it was all aliens. It was all aliens, Daniel. Everything. It was all a lie. Always has been. So
now History Channel is now the Real Men Doing Real Work channel.
Oh,
I think that was the internal language they used.
Okay, okay.
It's like Pawn Stars, Ice Road Truckers, Axemen. It's like manly things. Watch manly men do manly things and money things.
Okay. All right. You know what? I just don't even care anymore. Let's get our learn on.
For too many years since their victory in the Great War. And with the Japanese threat approaching like dark clouds on the horizon, the effort to prepare for a new war was still minimal, leading to a considerable weakness for the American forces in the Pacific. In July of 1941, after the Japanese occupation of southern Indochina, the USAFFE was formed, including both American and Filipino forces in the region, with Lieutenant General Douglas MacArthur as its commander-in-chief.
Don't worry, Douglas. The Marines will take back the Philippines for you. Okay, you just leave it to us. I'm not being disrespectful to the Army. We love you, but the Marines took it back. So there you go.
The Philippine army had thousands of troops, but it lacked modern weapons, adequate training, and valuable experience, something MacArthur set out to correct from the get-go, even though he wouldn't have the time to complete his task. The US Navy also had a small presence in the region with the old Asiatic Fleet of Admiral Thomas Hart, which is not to be confused with the Pacific Fleet based in Hawaii. This fleet depended on a few cruisers and World War I era destroyers, although it featured a considerable submarine squadron as well, albeit not big enough to successfully struggle against the Japanese.
Okay, it actually let it play out for the last card.
It's a reasonable fleet
compared to what Britain had. This is much better. It's probably still not enough, but the fact that they have 29 submarines is, I don't know, that seems pretty good. They got a lot of coastal boats, gunboats. They got a heavy cruiser, light cruisers, and then a bunch of destroyers.
Exactly.
Asiatic Fleet was also responsible for the defense of Guam, while the defense of Wake Island was under the jurisdiction of Admiral Husband Kimmel's Pacific Fleet. In the Philippines, MacArthur counted some 22,532 men, including 1 fully American regiment, 3 well-trained regiments of Philippine Scouts, 2 tank battalions.
Yeah, what's up?
You always talk about horses. There's your horses.
You know what? Our horses are the best, okay? We got good old Wilbur in the Army, all right? Okay, how dare you? How dare you?
Okay.
10 inexperienced Philippine divisions and considerable coastal and anti-aerial artillery. Okay. MacArthur also had at his disposal.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, he's going to add more, but look at that. That's like...
but it's still not enough, though, which is...
No, it's not, but it's definitely... I'm going to guess that the Japanese are... This is my prediction. Japan's going to have a slightly harder time invading the Philippines with more casualties than Thailand.
I'm willing to agree with you for that point, but again, it's going to be a toe-to-toe slug match. But don't worry, MacArthur. You're going to get your Marines to help you out, okay? So there you go.
Disposal, the Far East Air Force, under the command of Major General Louis Brereton, totaling some 218 modern aircraft, as well as the Philippine Air Corps' 6 squadrons of obsolete aircraft. A very sizable air force to stem the Japanese offensive. In Guam, although the US didn't think that the island could be successfully defended, naval forces were under the command of Captain George McKillen, counting with some 271 Navy personnel, as well as 153 Marines, led by Lieutenant Colonel William McNulty, and some 240.
Yeah, just around. No, actually, it's a little more than 500. It's like around 600 plus. There you go.
That makes all the difference.
Volunteers.
Yes, it does.
Of the Guam Insular Force Guard. Meanwhile, in Hawaii, Admiral Kimmel had noticed the valuable strategic importance of Wake Island since the start of the year, ordering the construction of naval base facilities with the objective of turning it into a stronghold, something that wouldn't be completed by the end of 1941. Kimmel had the 1st Defense Battalion of Marine units for the defense of the American islands in the Pacific, with the other 3 battalions assigned to Midway and Hawaii.
I'm going to throw up a guess in your favor, and we'll see if I'm right. They're going to hold out better than almost anyone else because they're Marines. How's that? Feel good about that prediction?
They will hold out, but, the boys in Midway, they really step up.
2 detachments were sent to the Johnston and Palmyra Islands.
And look, here's the thing. Like, obviously, they're going to hold, but again, the Empire of Japan is completely, professional, and they've had, experience in combat. So again, this is America's first big fight with a superpower that's been at war for many years.
But
all the rest of the
what's up?
Don't you see how big that ship is? It's bigger than the islands. I think we're going to be okay.
That's.
Am I reading that wrong?
You are you're way off there.
Representation of what the ship looks like zoomed out, zoomed in.
Exactly. Yeah, zoomed in. Yeah, you're way off, buddy. Way off.
The battalion remained at Pearl Harbor. On August 8th, a new detachment of the 1st Defense Battalion was sent to Wake, totaling some 422 Marines under the command of Major James Devereaux. In late November,
the Marines are like, "Hey, command, can we send 2 guys back?"
Saw what you did there.
defense of Wake was placed under the command of Winfield Cunningham, while the defenders would be reinforced with the VMF 211 Squadron of Major Paul Putnam, consisting of 12 F4F3 Wildcat fighters. As for the Japanese, limited by the war in China and the attacks against the British and Dutch colonies, they could only count on 2 divisions and a brigade for their offensives against the American possessions in the Pacific. The rest of the hard work would have to be carried out by the IJN and their Special Naval Landing Force, the Japanese equivalent to the US Marines. For the invasion of the Philippines in particular, Tokyo had planned to first
Often imitated, never duplicated, okay? There you go. All right. The equivalent. Okay.
neutralize the American Air Forces in the Philippines to have full control of the air. To do this, they would also need to execute several amphibious invasions against the main American northern airfields to extend Japanese aircraft capabilities.
Okay.
Once air superiority.
Just if we go by Japan's strategy and how they do it, they start their campaigns with air dominance strategies. They take out mainly the air force of whoever they're going against, and then it seems like they start focusing on supporting positions or just bombing certain areas. Because they don't really have heavy duty bombers. They have lighter bombers. We kind of know that's what they've been doing so far. So I'm going to throw out a guess here, because they were surprise attacking everywhere basically at once. That really nice Air Force that I think we just saw, I don't think a lot of it's going to get off the ground, if history's any student.
Yeah, well, let's find out what exactly happens.
It was assured they would launch their main amphibious assault against Luzon and Mindanao, then advancing across the Philippines to occupy their vital strategic locations. The 14th Army of Lieutenant General Homa Masaharu, consisting of the 16th and 48th Divisions, as well as the 65th Independent Mixed Brigade and 2 tank regiments, was appointed to carry out this operation, and they would be supported by the 5th Army Air Force Division of Lieutenant General Obata Hideyoshi, consisting of 183 short-range aircraft.
Oh, wow.
The Japanese also appointed Vice Admiral Takahashi Ibo's 3rd Fleet to support the invasion of the Philippines, primarily showcasing a variety of cruisers and destroyers, and providing some 358 valuable long-range aircraft in the form of the 11th Air Fleet. Takahashi's role in the Philippines was to destroy the Asiatic fleet, cover and support the naval landings, and then protect Japanese supply lines and reinforcements. Meanwhile, the 4th Fleet of Vice Admiral Inoue Shigeyoshi was selected to conduct operations against the islands of the Pacific Ocean, including the invasions of Wake and Guam. For the attack on Wake Island, Inoue planned to conduct 3 days of aerial bombardment, followed by naval landings on Wilkes Island and Wake proper. The invasion force, designated as Comdesron 6 and commanded by Rear Admiral Kajioka Sadamichi, consisted of a covering and support force of cruisers and destroyers, 34 bombers of the 24th Air Flotilla, an occupation force, and 450 SNLF Marines. For the assault on Guam, Inoue assigned the South Seas Detachment of Major General Hori Tomitaro, mainly consisting of 4,886 men from the 144th Infantry Regiment. To support the naval landings on Guam, the Japanese would also appoint the 6th Cruiser Division of Rear Admiral Goto Aritomo, consisting of 4 heavy cruisers, 4 destroyers, and 370.
This is many ships, and like what they say, 6,000 men against like what we said, like 500 or 600 defenders.
Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to throw this out here too. Again, Japan is overextending itself, and it's one thing to successfully, defeat an ill-prepared military force. It's another thing altogether to hold it, because the one problem that Japan has, and eventually even Germany deals with it too, is you can expand, but the thing is, the amount of material and men and equipment lost, can you replace it? And America, at this point is in the most advantageous position in the war. Now, yes, in the early stages, we will be losing a lot of battles, and a lot of our equipment is clearly out of date. But the one thing we have working for us is that none of Japan's, Germany's, or Italy's bombers or fighters or tank regiments or military regiments can enter into the American mainland and destroy our industry. Our industry is what propels the Allied powers to systematically, again, steamroll through the Axis, and on top of that too, you have to count in when the Soviets get involved. Then, well, it's over too. So there you go.
SNLF Marines. Inoue also planned to occupy the Gilbert Islands and to conduct bombardments of the Howland and Baker Islands. For this operation, he created a supporting group under the command of Captain Miyazaki Shigetoshi, consisting of 2 mine layers, 2 destroyers, and a gunboat, to escort the 51st Naval Garrison Unit in its invasion of the Gilberts. At the same time, the 24th Air Flotilla was placed in charge of the bombardment of the Howland, Baker, and Gilbert Islands. As we've seen, on December 2nd, the order to climb Mount Nitaka was given, setting up the final preparations for the Japanese offensives to be launched on December 8th. 3 days later, Honma's men departed Hahajima en route to Guam, with the objective of landing at Tumon Bay on the southwest coast near Merizo and on the eastern shore of Telefufo Bay. The other invasions, however, would have to wait first for the airstrikes to be successful. Around 0300 hours on December 8th, the American commanders in the Philippines were informed of the attack on Pearl Harbor. Although the US thought that the Philippines were a lost cause and only wanted to execute a limited resistance for reinforcements of the Pacific Fleet to arrive, MacArthur had planned to do a more active defense, trying to defeat the Japanese on the beaches before they could establish a foothold. Thus, he established 3 main defensive forces: the North Luzon Force of Major General Jonathan Wainwright, the South Luzon Force of Major General George Parker Jr., and the Visayan Mindanao Force of Brigadier General William Sharp. MacArthur also believed that the combined strength of the Asiatic Fleet and his air forces were capable of destroying any Japanese fleet, something Admiral Hart opposed, believing it would be best for his forces to retreat south and join a combined fleet with the British and the Dutch. General Brereton wanted to prepare a retaliatory B-17 bombing strike against Formosa in accordance with the Rainbow 5 war plan. At 0530, Chief of Staff of the US Army, General George Marshall, ordered MacArthur to execute the existing war plan, Rainbow 5, but MacArthur did nothing. General Brereton proceeded 3 times to ask permission, and was denied until he personally spoke to MacArthur at 1100, finally obtaining permission. This procrastination of a preemptive attack would cost them dearly. Meanwhile, at Wake, the American defenders were informed of the attack on Pearl Harbor around 0600, quickly rushing to man the island's defenses. 4 Wildcats were also sent to patrol around Wake, with the rest being prepared for liftoff. Around 0700, Japanese aircraft took off from Formosa, heading towards the Philippines, and then striking Tuguegarao and Baguio at 0930. At this point, Army bombers returned to Taiwan, leaving the Americans feeling like the attack was over, even though it had just begun. 34 bombers had also taken off at dawn from Roy Island towards Wake, while from Saipan, Japanese aircraft struck Guam, destroying one of their mine layers. At the same time, Japanese bombers from the Marshall Islands shelled Nauru, Howland, Baker, and the Gilbert Islands. As a result, airstrips and infrastructure on the islands were damaged, and Howland lost 2 of its 4 colonizers. Meanwhile, troop transports from the Marshalls also began to embark en route to the Gilberts. They would arrive on December 9th, with SNLF Marines landing on Makin and Tarawa unopposed, and starting the construction of seaplane bases there. 2 days later, the Japanese would also take control of Little Makin and Bukati, completing their invasion of the Gilbert Islands. And back to the main action, Japanese Navy bombers caught the Americans unaware at 12:30, bombarding the Iba airfield and destroying a flight of P-40s and its radar station. They then
See, procrastination. Don't ever do it, folks.
Hey, they
Headed to
surprise attack
Clarkfield.
us. We'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Here's hoping that our cavalry will just be fine. I don't want anything bad to happen to our horses.
where they managed to destroy most of the American aircraft on the ground,
Called
leaving
it.
only 17 B-17.
Our horses are fine, though. That's what matters.
We can't put wings on them, so I'm not as impressed.
Well, we could use our imagination or maybe attach a rocket to them. Maybe then.
Operational. By afternoon, half of the Far East Air Force was shattered, assuring Japanese air superiority for the rest of the campaign. Douglas MacArthur's procrastination of Brereton's requests cost them dearly. At the same time, Japanese bombers at Wake managed to slip through the American patrols, then bombarded the airfield and destroyed 8 Wildcats on the ground. They also struck the American camps, defenses, and seaplane facilities, causing considerable damage before returning back to the Marshall Islands. In a single day, the Japanese air forces had repeated their success at Pearl Harbor, leaving the American presence in the Pacific severely weakened. Furthermore, some 490 SNLF Marines had already landed on Bataan Island, taking control of its small airfield to further execute air operations. This convinced Admiral Hart to order the bulk of the Asiatic fleet to withdraw and join the British and the Dutch on Borneo, just as he had planned. More aerial bombardments over the remaining American airfields would follow in the next few days, destroying most of the remaining aircraft and leaving only a handful of P-40 and B-17s
You know what makes me so sad
unscathed.
about that?
Go ahead.
Those were all modern aircraft.
I know. What a shame.
I
What
mean,
a
to
shame.
be fair, I don't think America had anything that could quite compete with the Zero, and I didn't tell if that's what was invading. But if you took, I think, out the Zero, I think we could probably have fought a decent amount of what was there. At least taken a few down with us.
Exactly.
Thus, MacArthur was left without naval or air forces, alone to defend the Philippines with his ground divisions. Wake and Guam were also hit again on December 9th, although this time the American defenders were prepared to brace against the Japanese attack, so they didn't suffer much damage. More air attacks would follow on December 10th, but this day would also see the first major fighting in the Pacific. Around 0200, Goto's 370 SNLF Marines landed at Agenya Bay, quickly engaging the men of the Guam Insular Force Guard and overtaking their positions with their superior firepower. They subsequently advanced towards Sume and the Marine Barracks, while Hori's South Seas Detachment landed at its objectives practically unopposed, and then started its advance across the island.
Got surrounded.
Some fighting ensued on Eganya's Plaza de España, and soon Captain McKillin saw that further resistance was pointless, calling a ceasefire. Around 0600, he would finally surrender his forces, making Guam the first American territory to fall into Japanese hands. Meanwhile, in the Philippines, the situation was also very grim. At dawn, 3 surprise attack forces, carrying around 2,000 Japanese soldiers each, started their operations, with the first one landing at Apari. This was a very important target, as its airfield could allow army aircraft of the Japanese to conduct attacks all across the Philippines. Despite this, the Japanese landed unopposed and could capture Apari, Gonzaga, and Camiguin Island in a matter of hours. At the same time, the second force disembarked at Vigan, but was met with an intense B-17 and P-40 attack that forced some Japanese soldiers to retreat back to the transports. They would return the following day, landing 4 miles to the south and taking the town of Lawag, while the rest of the detachment had already secured Vigan and its airfield. MacArthur was livid when he heard about the naval landings, blaming Wainwright for his incompetence in MacArthur's planned active defense.
Well, gee, MacArthur, if you didn't procrastinate with that order, we wouldn't be in this situation, boss man.
Not even offering any resistance.
Go ahead.
That's fine.
Well, don't worry, Daniel. Spoiler alert: with the Marines, MacArthur will get back. To the Philippines.
I was going to say he's always caught me as a bit of a diva, and there you go.
Well, this will not be the first nor last time MacArthur kind of puts himself in a little bit of a awkward situation.
The last Japanese surprise force, coming from the Palau Islands, also disembarked on Legazpi unopposed on December 12th, then taking the city and its airfield. At this point, Japanese forces had also taken the Tuguegarao airfield to the south of Apari, threatening the last major American airfield at Del Monte. This prompted Brereton to ask permission for the remaining aircraft to be transferred to Darwin, Australia, and as MacArthur agreed, the remaining B-17s had escaped by December 19th.
That's a smart move because, again, it's a losing situation. And at least then those planes can be used for future attacks. And again, Australia does receive bombardments, and there was risk of a potential invasion. It didn't come into fruition, but Australia had to really defend itself as well.
Yeah. Well, then the emus declared war on the Japanese, and they're like, we're not going to invade anymore.
Oh, shoot. Are you kidding me? The legendary first Australian, or the first Royal Australian Emu Battalion.
No, it's the Emu Riders Battalion.
Emu Riders Battalion. Let me tell you something, man. Friendly guys, really great guys, great sense of humor. But when you mess with them, boy, do they get rough. They don't play around.
Homer then ordered his forces in the northern Philippines to concentrate at Vigan to assist the main offensive against the Lingayen Gulf, which we will cover in the future. In the meantime, we're going to return to Wake Island, where hell was going to be let loose on December 11th. Early in the morning, Kajioka's invasion force arrived in the vicinity of Wake and proceeded to take positions for the landing of his troops. He subsequently ordered to start the bombardment of the American positions on the beaches. In response, Devereux quickly ordered his forces to track their objectives and to hold their fire for the Japanese ships to get in range of their batteries. Around 0600, as Kajioka's flagship, the Yubari, reached Peacock Point, Devereux knew that it was now or never, so he gave the command to open fire. Immediately, a rain of fire fell upon the Japanese warships. From Peacock Point, Battery A opened fire over the Yubari, hitting her 4 times on her port side. As Kajioka's flagship turned to starboard while engulfed in smoke, a destroyer swept in and tried to protect her, getting hit once without much damage before Kajioka's escape.
Damn.
At the same time, Battery L on Wilkes Island opened fire over the destroyer Hayate, hitting it 3 times. The destroyer then exploded, broke in 2, and finally sank, the first Japanese vessel to sink in the Pacific War.
There you go.
Battery
Hey, don't mess with us, man. We ain't playing around.
L then targeted another destroyer, hitting it once, but at this point, most of the Japanese vessels had already gotten out of range of the American guns. Meanwhile, Battery B on Peel Island exchanged fire with 3 destroyers and 2 cruisers, giving and receiving considerable damage without major losses on either side. With the retreat of the invasion force back to the Marshall Islands, the Japanese had been defeated, although this was not the end. Major Putnam's 4 remaining Wildcats soon pounced on the retiring ships with guns blazing. They managed to explode another destroyer and severely damage 1 cruiser before the Japanese were out of range, with only one of the Wildcats receiving some damage. Yet, despite the great American victory, the Japanese immediately retaliated with an air bombing run over the batteries on Peel Island, which had been pinpointed by Kajioka's forces. Devereux would then change the location of these batteries to the east end of Peel to avoid more losses. Nonetheless, this was the first time the Japanese behemoth had been stopped, and amidst the many failures the Allies had already suffered in the east, it brought hope back to the defenders in the Pacific. But this was hardly the end, as the Japanese would come back once again to take the island in the following weeks. Next week, we're going to cover the continuation of the Japanese.
There you go. The Marines held tough.
The Marines did hold tough. And again, folks, shout out to Kings and Generals who, again, are putting together phenomenal content. Do us a favor, support the original content creators. But hey, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that ring bell notification. That way you're made aware when we upload new content onto this YouTube channel of ours as well, because that's cool to do. So support. Why not support both? So there you go. All right. But obviously, again, this is a fantastic series, and I'm learning stuff that I never knew. Shout out to those Marine units. For those who don't know, yes, I did serve 4 years in the Marine Corps. So anything talking about the Marines, you might see a little twinkle in my eyes. So there you go. But
The
great
Marines,
content.
the Navy's land-based Air Force.
Dan, let's give you the closing arguments. Any thoughts, comments, statements?
Yeah, like Japan is simultaneously attacking everywhere. I didn't quite realize it was like that closely grouped together, but it clearly was. And MacArthur could have done more damage had he not procrastinated and then blamed the person who was actually trying to do good work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy how it's interesting how they're landing. They're not getting like, one set beach. They're getting like the entire side of an island.
Mhm.
And that way, if they're, I guess if someone's fighting at this point, they can just envelop them anywhere else. But no one's doing well.
No.
Except Wake Island.
That's true, man. Boy, oh boy. What a crazy world. So, in other words, folks, be sure to follow along as we continue to follow this outstanding series. And there's a lot of great content to come. So we will see you all on the flip side. Until then, I'm Kit. That's Daniel. And we are out of here. Stay safe, folks, and all the best.